Welcome to Viv Europe's official podcast on living your best life in Europe. Whether you're an expat looking to build your dream life, a digital nomad searching for the perfect place to call home, or someone curious about life in Europe, this podcast is your go-to resource. Without further ado, let's get started. We hope you enjoy it. Hi everybody, it's Victor here again, and now I'm with my dear friend Rita, and
Hello.
we will talk
Very,
about real estate. It seems like a very, let's say, trending topic. Many people they ask about, you know, what's the best place to live in Portugal? Are there any, trends or there are many questions that we receive, and we decided to record one video for you to go over some of these topics. And Rita also, she is used to deal with real estate. We as many of you know, we are a company that provides assistance for people looking after to move to Portugal, and real estate is always one of those topics that people have more and more questions. And
yes.
yeah,
Well,
so if you want to
very
go ahead, if
sorry.
you want to
Sorry to interrupt.
introduce
I
yourself,
just I was just
Rita.
gonna say I'm very very happy to be here and help out and people who are looking and searching and want to know how to find a house in Portugal. Sometimes it's so overwhelming. There's so much information and you don't know which source to trust. So we have experience with this here at Viv Europe on a daily basis and with different kinds of clients, different kinds of profiles from, the young expat who's coming on a digital nomad visa to a family. And so I think it's very valuable to talk about this. And I really hope we can help in some way. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited
Yep.
because there's some topics that they are not very uh, interesting, to tell you the truth. Some very like legal topics. They are very, oh my, there we go again. Here we go.
Yeah.
But I think that real estate is really something that people they sometimes they struggle with. There are not so many things that people take into consideration when moving to Portugal, and especially if people are applying for a visa, going through that whole process of getting the documents to move. Then it's even more challenging because you have to deal
Yes.
with timelines. When is
Yes.
the appointment at the agency, and that should match the date that you will rent a place here,
Yes.
right? So
These
yeah.
are, yeah, more technical issues, but also important, right? I mean, we can start by talking about the trends that are going on right now, as in terms of in 2024, what's happening, how has it changed, where are most expats moving to, and I don't know if you agree, Victor, but in my opinion, there has been a slight change. It's been slow, but there's a slight change. So I think there is still an interest in the big urban cities. So I would say, that would be Lisbon, Porto, and the Algarve. I still see an interest in the big city centers, and I think it's because of cultural, lots of cultural options, excellent amenities. So there is still that interest, but there are also emerging markets in other smaller places, and the fact is the prices are still on the rise. Maybe they're not so much there, it's more like a slow rise, and it was going very fast, and now it's a little bit slower, but they're still on the rise. So that's another reason why some people are looking for smaller cities as well. I don't know, what do you What do you think?
I
What's your
totally,
experience?
totally agree, Rita. Um, Still, I think that people, when Portugal comes, when people think about move to Portugal, first things that comes to mind are those big cities, so Lisbon and Porto and Algarve. But the more the person do the research, and you know they feel that they don't want to face that same you know hustle and bustle from like
Yeah.
places where they used to live. They can see that there are many more places here in Portugal that are more more, uh, more like a they find more like a chill environment,
Mm-hmm.
such as
I
Silver
mean,
Coast.
yes, yes, I was going to mention that. And just to make it clear, I think that if you have this very strong feeling like I love Lisbon, I want to live in Lisbon, I think go for it. I don't want to discourage anybody to go to the big cities. I mean, if that's what you want, there is a way to find a reasonable rent, or you, of course, you're going to have to search a little bit harder, and it's a competitive market. But I
Yeah.
really do believe that if you want to go, but there are options, like you were saying, the Silver Coast, and also Alentejo, I think,
Oh yeah, Alentejo.
also, which is that area, southern central area. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
Beja, Porto Alegre. So this is a trend as well. And smaller cities like I've been seeing more expats moving to like Aveiro, searching for in Aveiro, Coimbra, Setúbal. So there's an emerging market happening
Yeah.
also.
And also people trying to avoid paying like very high rents, they can go to those surrounding areas that you can find like near Lisbon, for example. I guess Oeiras, uh,
Yes. Oh, that I'm
this
so
this
happy you mentioned that.
yeah.
Yes.
No, I don't know very much of the Lisbon area, but I know that there are so many places around, I guess Setúbal as well, where you won't have to pay
Yes.
like
Yes.
yeah.
And the thing is, like, Oeiras is a municipality west west, yeah, I think west of Lisbon. Is that right? Yeah, that
I
is
guess
right.
so.
Okay.
Yeah,
And like the most popular place in this municipality is Cascais, but that's a very expensive area, and people think, oh, is that the only place? But Oeiras has many beautiful places that don't have such a high price, and I think they're not being explored as they should be, like Carcavelos, Santo Amaro, Parede. These are all really nice places in the Oeiras area. And it's a little bit different than Lisbon because it's more of like a beach vibe.
I see.
So it all goes
And
back to like profile. What kind of profile do you have, right? But
yeah, and I feel when speaking to people that they have this necessity of living in a place where they won't rely on having a car to go anywhere. They would like just to use the train system, the buses to move around. And do you think that living in those places that are not very central, Lisbon, for example, they can avoid having a car, for example? What do you think?
not depends. So, some places in Cascais, you will need a car to go to the supermarket, you know, to go if you want to come to Lisbon, of course. But some places you can have, like if you live in Santo Amaro, which is a small area in Oeiras, you can find an apartment where when you the surroundings, you're going to have a pharmacy, a supermarket, a deli, so you have your own little life there, right?
I got it.
um, if you want to go into Lisbon, you don't necessarily need a car unless you're commuting to work, maybe you want a car, but not necessarily,
Yeah.
because there's a great like there's the train station, right? That goes from from this area to Cais do Sodré, which is in Lisbon.
Mm,
And it's very easy to use this commute. So you can find places in Oeiras where you don't need a car. But if you are looking for something more like a very suburban feel and you want a house, there are places where you have houses, and then you're going to need a car. So, but
yeah.
you can find places where you do not need a car in these areas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do have the same feeling. And yeah, there is the train station that covers the whole country, but it does not cover some small regions in the
That's
way,
true.
right? People think, oh, so as there is this like big line of this train system, then I will be able to use it. Not all the time that applies.
No, no,
Yeah,
I'm talking about Oeiras, Lisbon. If you, for example, choose to live in Alentejo, which is
yeah,
the southern central area, public transport, I'm not going to lie, is not that good.
yeah.
So,
I have.
again,
I
it's
really.
important to do your research
Have you been there
because
already, Rita, to the Algarve?
I've been to Sines. No, not Sines. Sorry, that's wrong. I've been to Silves
Oh,
and Castro Marim, which is more like it's close to Spain.
I see.
Um, I've been to Monte Gordos, like specific spots. It's very beautiful. It's nice and
Really,
warm and sunny. You've been there too, right? No.
I've been there, but it was very quickly. I went to
Okay.
Évora.
Hmm.
I remember it was so hot. I guess it was
Oh,
like
Everett is one of
like
the hottest places.
it is. It is. It was, at least when I went there, it was very, very hot, but it was beautiful. When I was able
Yeah.
to leave the shadows to see something, because it was like really burning the place.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the architecture, I felt something different from Lisbon, for example. It's
Oh, yes.
People say that, I don't know if that's true, but they are like the poor zone of Portugal, in a way. So
Uh-huh.
um, I don't know. I guess this is like from when there's always this like games that
Stigmas.
people
Yeah.
play. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So they have like a very specific accent. People say from the Alentejo, and
Mm-hmm.
so there's this kind of stigma. Yes, but so I went there thinking that I would only see like uh, poverty or anything
Oh, no. No, no,
related, but that
no.
was not the case at all. It was beautiful, really.
No.
I like it.
Yes, yes. I think and I think maybe what they mean is in some places it's just more simple.
Yeah,
So, like in Lisbon, I live in Lisbon and I can find, I can find a vegan restaurant. I can find vegan donuts. I can find South Korean restaurants. I can find things from all over the world. If I go to a small city in the Algarve or southern central area, I'm not going to have so many options. Things are going to be more traditional. I think in that sense.
yeah,
So
makes
it's
sense.
not really about being poor. It's just, I think, maybe less multicultural. I don't know if
Yeah,
I'm saying something that's correct. I might be completely wrong, but
but I have the same feeling. I have the
yeah,
same feeling. But it seems, as you mentioned, this is like a trending area. People are going more and more to this place, buying properties. So I guess it's a matter of time for the city to develop and have more options as well. That's maybe an opportunity,
yeah.
an investment. Who knows?
The biggest city there is Faro, right? I'm talking about south
Okay.
Algarve, not south central Alentejo, but Algarve, like Algarve South. So the biggest city there is Faro, and I think I have not been, so I don't have an opinion about it, but I do think that by now there's a huge community of expats living in
Yeah.
Faro, Lagos. So I'm sure that this has impacted in what you can
Yeah.
find.
Yeah. I've been there in the Algarve, and it was like 2020, if I remember well, so 4 years ago, and was uh, it's like if you go there in summer, it's like paradise. Beautiful beaches. And what I remember was that if you buy or rent properties close to the coastal zone, south,
Mm-hmm.
it's expensive. It is, it's a
Yes.
very touristic place. Many
Yes.
British people living there,
Yes. Yes.
and that can inflate the market. But if you go
Yes.
further north, close to the Alentejo area, then I guess that's
Yes.
the
Mm-hmm.
perfect spot in terms of pricing, because
Exactly.
you can go south and enjoy the beaches. You can go to the Alentejo region, which is very beautiful, and not pay too much on rents.
Yeah. And also, I keep repeating um, this factor that is like, what is your profile? If you want to have a
Yeah.
connection with nature, and if having space and having outdoor area is something important, Alentejo is your place. You have hikes, you have, you're close to nature. Maybe you'll find a house with a backyard. That's so much more difficult in Lisbon. And we're
Yeah.
not really talking about the north, which we should, which is a wonderful place. You know,
It,
which is
it
there's also a vibrant cultural scene. I mean, Porto is known for art, concerts, so much culture, and it's also a wonderful city. Maybe you can talk more about that
It's
because
cold. It's
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 colder,
colder.
right?
I love Porto. I'm biased to talk about it. I just very recently I moved from Braga to Porto, and so many things to do. I it's like it's a very nice place. Of course, it's the second biggest city in Portugal. So in terms of cost of living, it can be expensive. If you go,
Hmm.
just like Lisbon, if you go to like downtown or like the
Oh yeah.
most touristic place, it can be expensive. But you can take my case as an example. I moved to Porto region, but I decided to buy a place in Gaia, Vila Nova de Gaia. So
Hmm.
it was not that expensive. We did research on Porto area. We find some opportunities over there, much more expensive. But to commute to Porto from Gaia, uh, it takes like 15 minutes walking. So
Oh,
it's
15
good to know that.
minutes
Yeah,
by foot.
yeah,
Oh,
because I
on
live
foot. On
very
foot. Yeah.
close to the bridge, very close to the bridge,
Okay.
and then
Okay.
we have also the subway that can help a lot. So, but overall, I agree with you, Rita. There's so many things to do here. Talking about culture, talking about architecture, um, places to eat, so many different restaurants to go to, and I'm kind of overwhelmed with the possibilities, because coming
Yeah.
from Braga, where we had like one or two restaurants that we would go all the time,
Yeah.
and now I can
No
order
offense to
instantly.
Braga. No offense
Yeah,
to. It's just
no
a
offense,
different,
it's just
smaller
lifestyle.
city. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
No.
But I like Braga. Actually, my my wife was the one who decided to move to Porto, not me. I love Braga. If my vote was to stay there, but
I
as
guess it wasn't a strong enough vote. Okay.
not at all.
But I'd like to ask you something. So now you're in Vila Nova de Gaia, which is like next door to Porto. And do you find that you can do everything around you, go to the groceries, go to the pharmacy without a car? Or is this a place that you do need a car?
That's a good question. You know, where I'm located, because Vila Nova de Gaia is a very big region. So
Mm-hmm.
you can find that a spot where it's a little more far away from the restaurants areas, and
Mm-hmm.
you will need to have a car to go to these places. You can even find some rural areas here in Vila Nova de Gaia. So
Really? Okay.
there's everything over here. But I would say if you live close to the bridge, for example, or that leads to Porto, or even Gaia, there is. Uh, it's not that Gaia uh, relies on Porto to
Mm-hmm.
for anything. You know, we have everything here as well. We have good restaurants. We we have some good uh, uh, theaters, for example. So there is things to do over here. But if you live like on close to the Spanish border,
Mm-hmm.
then you will need a car. Yes,
Okay.
I
So it really
I
is
think
like
so.
specific places. It really depends.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, overall, I think that here in Vila Nova de Gaia, we have a very we have options here. You
Right.
know,
Mm-hmm.
most
Mm-hmm.
places here we have some options. If you open like Uber Eats, for example, there will be plenty of restaurants here to choose between. So yeah, and I think
Okay.
more and
So
more, like it's like a trend here in Portugal. People are exploring more these cities, as you mentioned before. So it's just a matter of time for at least most of the important cities that we consider nowadays. They will have more options. People start
yeah.
as we know, we work with clients that they come to Portugal and they decide to open an Indian restaurant, for example, or start a
Yes.
business here. So it's not only Portuguese
Mm-hmm.
people who are creating business, but Brazilians as well. So it's like
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
it's
It's
booming
really
for sure.
changing,
Yeah, it's
changing at a rapid speed, and I think there are a lot of um, positive things, about being so multicultural. I myself really like it, um, to have all these cultures around me. And, I walk down the street in my neighborhood and I'll hear someone, speaking Bengali and then Chinese and then, Russian. And I think this is, it's very rich, right? To have all this, and it's a wonderful mix. Um,
I agree. I agree. And this, at least in my experience living here in Portugal, of course, it's not Lisbon, but last time I went to Braga, you, yes, you can hear people from all over the world, and it's so strange, moving here like 6 years ago, where you would only listen Brazilian Portuguese because there are many
yes,
Brazilians in
that's
Brazil.
always been here for a long
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
To now you go like downtown Braga and listen in so
Yeah.
many different dialects, different languages. It's very interesting.
And my parents were saying, because they lived here in 2007, and they were saying how when they lived here, and they lived in Lisbon, you couldn't find like a Palestinian restaurant, an Israeli restaurant, um, Indian restaurant, Ukrainian. There was this. this has been happening now for the
Yeah,
last, you know,
yeah, yeah. True.
15
Like
years.
it's incredible.
Right.
And Rita, what do you think, like personal opinion, of course,
Mhm.
on the like the let's see if I can put it right, the quality of the apartments here in Portugal. Do you think that they are like very old and not well maintained? What is your impressions about it?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. Um, I spent a long time looking for an apartment, and there is, and I'm talking about Lisbon. That's what I'm going to talk about because that's my experience, right? There are a lot of old buildings from the 30s, from the 40s, from the 50s. And some of them have been renovated, and they're very special because if you find like a 1940s, 50s building that's renovated, it's beautiful. You have high ceilings, you have these like, it's art deco vintage thing to them, and it's so charming. I think it's very personal, right, Victor?
Yeah, yeah,
And so if you find a renovated old building, it could be so special. But some of them, unfortunately, weren't well maintained, weren't well kept, and they're just in pieces. And then, you have to see, how is the inside of the building? What are the pipes like? Is there mold? So mold is a big problem here,
yeah,
and this is something you should always watch out for. If you're
yeah,
looking for an apartment and you see some mold, be aware, ask, you know, if it's an old building but it's beautiful, ask about the pipes, about the electricity. How's that going on? So these are things to watch out for because, yes, there are many old buildings. Does that mean that they're all bad? No, it doesn't. Some of them have been, well kept and have been renovated throughout the years. But yes, it's something to watch out for. Um, you also have newer constructions, and some of them are very ugly, in my opinion. There are some buildings from the, I don't know if it's the 80s or the 70s, that they're just like blocks, just like
yeah.
rectangles, like a yellow rectangle with little
I know.
windows. Um, I don't know. I don't find that very charming. And then you
Me
have
neither.
some like from the 90s, and it's more modern. You can find more modern constructions. My parents live in a one that's more modern, and you have a nice elevator and a garage, and so those, I think it's more common to find older buildings. I don't know if that's your experience.
It's,
And then
it is
you have areas where there are newer buildings, especially in like up and coming
exactly.
neighborhoods.
I guess the more you, yeah, exactly. If you go to the like downtown, you will find those charming old buildings. Most of them, at least in my opinion. But yeah, if you go a little further away in those new regions that are being populated, you can see the new apartments, the new buildings. I myself, I bought an apartment in one of these new regions, and you can
Hmm.
find, if you just look around, you find so many constructions over here, and they are new. They're yeah. I like the old architecture a little more than those like glassy new
Yeah.
properties. It's very personal, but I
Yeah.
think it's
It's
more
very
charming.
charming.
And yeah, when I think about Portugal, I always think about those like uh, very well maintained buildings, but old. So yeah, it's kind of strange, to see these new buildings here. I think about new buildings when I think about like United States, Brazil, but I don't know
Yeah.
if that's something that's
Doesn't
only in
really
my
match
mind.
with Europe. Yeah.
Exactly.
I,
But
but
overall,
like,
I agree with you. I agree
but
with you. You know,
speaking, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Sorry.
And I was just thinking that it's, from my experience with dealing with clients from the United States, um, from Canada, I think, and this is completely understandable. I think it's very hard for them to, I mean, especially if they're not very familiar with Europe, it's hard for them to understand that it's so different. And for example, I mean, it's not common to have heating in your apartment. And some of them are like, what? What do you mean? Because, I lived in the US myself and there's heating everywhere. So in the winter, inside your house, there's heating. Inside, you know, the stores, there's heating, and it's like internal heating, and you have to take off all those coats. And this is not the mentality here, and I think it's hard sometimes to make that these little cultural differences, right? And so they come to see an apartment. It's like, what do you mean there's no heating? And you're like, yeah, that's the common thing. There's no heating. And then you have to. That doesn't mean you're going to be cold. You have to buy portable heaters,
Yeah,
and that's how it works here, right?
agree. Totally. I do have one actually, one of those portable heatings, and but don't recall seeing one apartment with like this structure to heat the apartment. This never. I don't recall have seen one. Even those, I guess those new buildings, those new
They
apartments, they
do. I
may
think
have. They do.
so. I think maybe this is changing, because I do think the newer constructions already have like internal heating.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying this in a negative way. It's just a different kind of cultural characteristic, and it's not a big deal. The winters aren't really harsh, and you can get by with portable heating. It's
exactly.
fine. Um,
Yeah, and I guess it's really cold on maybe December, January, February, but then
yes,
when we start getting to like April, May, like where we are now, it's like beautiful sunny day here in Gaia.
here
So
too. Yeah.
yeah,
And plus,
very
like, cold is very subjective. I went to meet some Canadian clients for coffee, and I don't know, it was like February. I was freezing. He was wearing like a t-shirt. And I was like, wait a minute, aren't you cold? It's like, oh no, this is summer for me. So it's
true.
very subjective.
Thanks for tuning in for this episode. There's plenty more where that came from, so stay tuned. If you enjoyed our podcast, please leave a review and share it with others who might find it helpful. For more resources and personalized guidance, visit viveurope.com. Follow us on social media for the latest tips and updates. Until next time, keep dreaming big, and we'll be here when you are ready to make it happen.